This is Matthew Campagna from theturninggate.net. Today is Thursday, October 8th, and in this video we're going to be looking at Shadowbox and how it can be used with your auto index. The auto index appears in both TTG pages and TTG auto index, and both templates support Shadowbox as an option for launching your galleries. So I'm going to show you how to set that up. But first, I just want to take a look at Shadowbox so you can see what it is. So what I'm looking at right now is Ttg Shadowbox Gallery. And Shadowbox is a modal way of launching your images, similar to HighSlide or Slimbox. So when I click on an image, it launches in a Shadowbox on top of the image gallery thumbnail grid. So this is a default looking Shadowbox. You can navigate the images here in the Shadowbox, as you can see, then click this X or click anywhere outside the image to close it. I'm going to close this one out. This is another Shadowbox gallery that I've done some customizations to. You can see the colors are all different. The look is a little different with there's no border. But still, basically the same thing. So we're going to be seeing this again in another way very shortly, but let's head on over to Lightroom, and we're now looking at TTG Auto Index, and what I'm going to show you applies both to this web engine but also to TTG pages. The controls are exactly the same, so this applies to both. So say you've configured your auto index already, just like the one we have here. If I click on these, nothing happens. That's normal. And if we want to open Shadowbox or get those options, they're here in the appearance pane. Now normally what would happen with Shadowbox turned off is that, again, nothing happens here, but on the web, when we're running a live site, when I click an album box in my index, it's going to open up that gallery in a new page in your web browser. Now we can change that behavior so that instead of launching your gallery in its own page, it will launch that gallery in a Shadowbox, overlaying the gallery index so that users don't actually ever leave the index while looking at your images. So to enable this behavior, we're going to come over here to the Shadowbox options. And for index action, this first one on the list, we are going to change this. By default, it says launch gallery in new page. We're going to change this to launch gallery in Shadowbox. And when we do that, you're going to be presented with this licensing agreement for using Shadowbox. Read through that, make your peace with it, and then click this box here. I have read and agree to the Shadowbox usage terms. When you do that, the notification goes away and we are allowed to continue. Now you have some options here as to colors for your Shadowbox, colors for the controls, and then you've got some sliders here for overlay opacity, Shadowbox border, and the font size on the title. And now that we're in the Shadowbox mode of the auto index, if I click on one of these, it's actually going to load this, which is not a real gallery, it's just an image of a demonstration gallery, but it's here to give you sort of a mock-up so that you can look at the Shadowbox while you're making your styling choices. So you can see here that my overlay color is this brown. If I wanted to, I could change that to black. And then I launch the Shadowbox, and you can see here that it's black. So that's why that's there. It's just so that you can make your adjustments with some visual feedback. Now when this goes to the web, of course, it's your galleries that will be launched, but that's really all there is to it. Again, the title font size slider adjusts this here. This is the title for your Shadowbox. The Shadowbox border adjusts the thickness of the border. As you can see, let me turn that off. The overlay opacity adjusts the opacity of this color overlay. So if I turn that way down, you can see that it's much more transparent. Now I can barely read this album title on top of the ID plate, whereas before when I had it up in the 90s, that's really easy to read. So again, make your choices. The controls color is basically just going to affect this X that's down here. You've got white, black, and then a few shades of gray in between. So that's basically how it works. As you can see, it's very simple to set up. I'd like to take a couple of minutes though and just go over some proper ways to use Shadowbox. Just because someone gives you a tool doesn't mean you have to use it. If someone hands you a hammer, you don't run around your house smashing all of your windows and vases. And with Shadowbox, it's kind of the same thing. There's a right way to use it and a wrong way to use it. And this is a matter of my personal opinion. You're welcome to do what you like, but this is my advice. First, I'll show you a couple of bad examples. So what I'm looking at now is an auto index I've made with Shadowbox enabled. And if I click on this one, it's going to launch a high slide gallery. Now the reason I don't like to do this, this is a bad example. If you look, it's got its own header, its own menu. This gets a little weird because when I start surfing here in the menu, it's going to be loading pages inside that shadow box and not inside my browser window. So I've already lost all this space. So it's like viewing the website in a smaller browser as I'm, navigating through my site, which is kind of lame. The other thing that I don't like about it is that if I start popping images up, what I have here, this is a high slide overlay inside a shadow box overlay on top of a gallery index. So this is gone a little too deep and there's too many overlays. It's especially kind of weird because I'm mixing two different kinds of overlays, high slide and shadow box. And of course, again, we get into that issue where we're launching our high slide images in a smaller viewport area than we would be if we were launching it as its own page. It also gets a little confusing. I'm looking at the image and I say, okay, I want to close the image and go back to my thumbnail grid. So there's a close button here. There's also one down here. And if the user clicks the wrong one, the whole gallery goes away, when all they really wanted to do was get back to this thumbnail grid by doing this. So it creates some interface confusion. If I launch a Shadowbox gallery within a Shadowbox index, again, it's the same issue as with the high slide gallery. I've got a Shadowbox inside a Shadowbox. I've got two close buttons with no clear indication which one to use. My viewport area is smaller than it would be. And I've got two headings. Here's my ID plate. Here's another ID plate out there. It's a little weird. So I don't like it. The proper way to use Shadowbox, and the reason that I include it in here as an option, is if you're using Flash galleries. Galleries that don't have a header of their own. Most Ttg HTML galleries, they have the ID plate, they have the menu bar, they let you provide site navigation as part of your galleries so that people can get around your entire website. If you load a Flash gallery, though, this is misbehaving. Sorry about that. If you load a Flash gallery, let's go into Simple Viewer to start with. As you can see, there's no site menu, there's no ID plate. Let's pick another one. Polaroid gallery. Again, there's no site menu, there's no ID plate. And that's really why we would want to use Shadowbox. You can use Ttg Stage, and you can give your Flash galleries an ID plate and a site menu, and that's one option. But Shadowbox is a second option. So this is a Simple Viewer gallery that I'm launching in a Shadowbox. And I think this is a very appropriate and really useful purpose for using these Shadowbox options, is because I can launch my Shadowbox and very easily I can close this and be back to my main site navigation. So whether you want to use a Simple Viewer gallery as shown here, or another type of Flash gallery, you can do this with Auto Viewer, Postcard Viewer, Slideshow Pro, Mono Slideshow, Polaroid gallery, lots of others. You can use the Lightroom Flash gallery. This is a great way to provide users access to your galleries while still allowing them to be able to navigate the site. So that's the lowdown on Shadowbox being used with the gallery index. I hope you found this educational, and I hope that you're busy making beautiful websites. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.